They had questioned him all night long. They had beaten him as they carried him from place to place. In their minds, they had finally got enough to charge him for him claiming to be the Son of God. Blasphemy in their minds. And it would have been if it weren't true. So finally, they get the courage up in the morning to carry him to Pilate, the one who had the real authority there in Jerusalem as Rome had occupied their country. They come to his door, but they won't go in, for it's the day of preparation for the Passover, and they don't want to be ceremonially unclean, even though the things that they're doing, they'll never be able to wash away from their hands. Pilate comes out first thing in the morning, says, What is this man here for? What kind of crimes has he committed? And they said, would we have brought him here if he wasn't a criminal? I can only begin to imagine the things that Pilate already heard before. So he brings Jesus in and questions him. Why have you been brought here to me? Finding nothing to convict Jesus of, he carries him back out to the angry mob. They aren't satisfied with the fact that Pilate couldn't find any crimes that Jesus had committed, and they insist that he had broken laws of theirs and needed to be executed, but they had no right to execute. So Pilate carries him in again, questions him, has him beat, flogged, most likely with sticks and whips. These Roman soldiers, they were experts at this, making people pay, making people remember who was really in charge, Rome. They twisted together some thorns into a crown. They placed it on his head, and they put a purple robe over his shoulders, and they began to mock him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they would say, coming up and spitting in his face. The soldiers brought Jesus in the crown of thorns and the robe out to the crowds again. Pilate insists that he finds nothing to accuse this man of, but the crowds insist, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate couldn't afford an uprising and a mob to take place in Jerusalem, especially at this time. And so to quiet the crowds, he washes his hands of this and hands Jesus over to be crucified. It's about noon. They carry him out to the place of the skull, and they crucify him with two others. But these two are truly criminals. Jesus, innocent, is not. The afternoon is full of insults and mockery. And finally, darkness falls over the sky, and Jesus cries out, "It is finished," and takes his last breath. This is the day of preparation. There's a special Sabbath coming the next day, and so they must hurry to get his body down. So Pilate had ordered for their legs to be broken, and when they got to Jesus, he was already dead, and so they didn't break his legs. Joseph of Arimathea comes to Pilate and requests that he will take Jesus' body and bury it. Him and Nicodemus wrap the body as quickly as they can so they can go ahead and get him buried. knowing that the women will come back on the first day of the week and finish the quick job that they did, the rush job that they did. They lay him in a tomb that had never had a body laid in it before. They rolled a stone across the opening, and the women were there and watching. All hope that they had in that moment must have been lost. I wish I could speak to them in that time. Let them know that in just a few days, hope would arise. Hope would come back to life. Their desperation would be turned to joy and celebration because Jesus would be raised from the dead. But in this moment, it must have seemed like the darkest hour of the night.